Welcome to my NHL historic rebuild featuring the 1985-86 Toronto Maple Leafs. The journey starts at the 1985 NHL Draft. Here I draft two very important players for the Maple Leafs in Wendel Clark and Mike Richter. Mike Richter will be the number one goalie for the Leafs, while Wendel Clark will eventually become the captain of the team. The first trade I'm going to make is trade Marcel Frycer, Borje Salming, Tom Fergus, and the 1987 first-round pick, Luke Richardson, to the Calgary Flames for MacInnis and a fourth-round pick in 1988, Alexander Mogilny. It's really tough to imagine the Calgary Flames trading MacInnis, but this is actually a really good offer. Frycer and Fergus were the Leafs' top 2 point getters in the 1985-86 season. Borje Salming is a very good veteran defenseman that can be a top 4 defenseman for the Flames. Luke Richardson is and can be a top 4 defenseman in the future for the Flames. MacInnis would be that stud defenseman on the Leafs they can build around. Alex Mogilny will be the Leafs' top line winger when he eventually comes over from the Soviet Union. The second trade I'm going to make is trade Rick Vaive, Jim Benning, Peter Ihnacak, and Walt Poddubny to the Winnipeg Jets for Thomas Steen and a 6th-round pick in 1988, Valeri Kamensky. This trade gives the Winnipeg Jets more depth on wing and on defense. Thomas Steen gives the Maple Leafs a number 2 center, which gives them more depth down the middle, and Valeri Kamensky gives the Leafs depth at left wing when he eventually comes over from the Soviet Union. The third trade I'm going to make is trade Dan Hodgson, Bob McGill, Greg Terrion, and Chris Kostopoulos to the St. Louis Blues for Doug Gilmour and Greg Paslawski. The Leafs really needed a number 1 center, and Doug Gilmour had the potential to be one in the NHL. Hodgson and McGill are 2 very solid young players, while Terrion and Kostopoulos are very nice depth players the St. Louis Blues can use. The fourth trade I'm going to make is trade Don Edwards to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2nd-round pick in 1987, Eric Desjardins. With the addition of Mike Richter, the Toronto Maple Leafs no longer need Don Edwards because they are planning on starting Mike Richter as the rookie. So they might as well get a quality pick for Don Edwards. And there are many teams in the NHL like the Canucks that are in desperate need of a starting goalie. Here they would select Eric Desjardins, who will be an all-star caliber defenseman for many years. The 5th trade I'm going to make is trade Brad Maxwell and a 2nd-round pick in 1987, Daniel Marois, to the Montreal Canadiens for Peter Svoboda and a 5th-round pick in 1986 for Lyle Odeline. Let me say that again. The 5th trade I'm going to make is trade Brad Maxwell, a 2nd-round pick in 1987, Daniel Marois, to the Montreal Canadiens for Peter Svoboda, a 5th-round pick in 1986, Lyle Odeline. The Leafs needed to improve their depth on defense, so adding Svoboda and Lyle Odeline is exactly what they needed to do. The last trade I'm going to make is trade Dan Doust, Brad Smith, and Miroslav Ik-na-cak to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a 3rd-round pick in 1988, Mark Recchi. This trade is initially just to clear the roster so that new players coming in will get a legit chance to play. Mark Recchi will eventually become a great top 6 winger for the Leafs. So this brings us to the 1986 draft. Here we draft 3 important players for the team in Vincent Damphousse, Ron Tugnutt, and Lyle Odeline. Vincent Damphousse may eventually become the 2nd-line center, which will push Thomas Steen to become the number 3 center. Ron Tugnutt will be our backup goalie to Mike Richter, which may eventually turn into a trade, as Ron Tugnutt would not want to stay as the number 2 goalie behind Richter, as he is good enough to be a number 1 for a struggling franchise. And Lyle Odeline can be a top 6 defenseman. So after everything is said and done, the Toronto Maple Leafs would have added via trade Al MacInnis, Thomas Steen, Doug Gilmour, Greg Paslawski, and Peter Svoboda. They would have added via draft Wendel Clark, Mike Richter, Vincent Damphousse, Rod Tugnutt, Lyle Odeline, Eric Desjardins, Mark Recchi, Alex Mogilny, and Valeri Kamensky. They would have lost Marcel Frycer, Borje Salming, Tom Fergus, Rick Vaive, Jim Benning, Peter Ihnacak, Walt Poddubny, Dan Hodgson, Bob McGill, Greg Terrion, Chris Kostopoulos, Brad Maxwell, Don Edwards, Dan Doust, Brad Smith, Miroslav Ihnacak, a 1987 first-round pick and a 1987 second-round pick. This rebuild actually wasn't as tough to do as other ones I've had to do in the past, because the Toronto Maple Leafs actually had many young assets to give up, which made the trades way easier to make. The Toronto Maple Leafs would go through some growing pains because there are many young players on the roster, but after about 3 or 4 years, they would become a legit contender. Next, I will be rebuilding the 1986-87 Detroit Red Wings.